The ultimate goal of the movie is to show the origin of the character Han Solo, so it's only fair to judge the movie on that above all else.
We start at the very beginning of Han Solo. Sort of. Despite the establishment of the Empire, apparently it's a lawless time in the galaxy. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's clear that they just wanted a gangster western feel for this movie, so they just made it up. There are ways they could have built the story properly to get this story set up, but they just took the lazy route.
In the beginning, we meet the orphan Mr. Han I Have No People and his girlfriend Kira, who will provide Han's primary motivation for the entire movie. I know it's the beginning of the movie, and they need to set things up, but there's a very, very long exposition scene disguised as dialogue, and it is soul-draining to say the least.
There's a Starliner leaving from Coronet Spaceport. We're gonna be on it. We bribe our way through the checkpoint and we're free. I'm gonna be a pilot.
We can get our own ship.
See the galaxy, all of it.
We won't have to take orders or be kicked around by anyone.
Ever.
Stop it.
The whole speech tells us about the characters' motives, what they're doing, but not what kind of people they are. Kira especially is rather plain and boring. I can't really tell you who she is, which is important because we're going to have a time skip, and it'll be impossible to tell whether she's changed at all. I guess she's a bit unnecessarily rude in certain scenes, I suppose.
Chewie, get in!
The same can be said for Han. All we learn about him is that he carries around some dang dice. Later, they have a lame chase scene, and Han and Kira get separated via the plot because she somehow couldn't get through the door that closed just in time for Han not to go back. It's a little bit contrived, but we'll give it a pass.
We already have the origin of the dice in the story. Now we get the origin of Han's last name. Let's roll the scene.
Han.
What? Who are your people?
I don't have people. I'm alone.
Solo?
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
We didn't need an origin of his name, but the writers decided to give us one. So thank you so much, Lawrence Kasdan. I really needed to know. It's not like people just have last names.
The movie's just obsessed with taking all the references from classic things about Han Solo and making sure each of those things happens within a few days so that we can see it occur in the movie.
The dice in his name are sort of in the prologue of the movie, but in the main events of the movie, we get to learn how he got his modified blaster, how he got his best friend Chewie, why he calls him Chewie, how he got the Falcon, how he met Lando, how he did the Kessel Run, and how he learned to shoot first. That's a lot of stuff. I found it hard to believe they thought they could do a trilogy when they blow everything out of that bunny I find it hard to believe they thought they could do a trilogy of movies when they blew everything out of the bunny slippers in the first movie.
A lot of these things don't make sense to include, like his last name, or why he calls Chewbacca Chewie. Those things don't need origins, they're just self-explanatory. So the movie's already falling apart in the way of being an origin film, but let's continue and see if it explains how he changes into the Han Solo we know and love today.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't.
Han joins the Imperial Army in hopes of becoming a pilot. Then we get thrown into a scene in which he's in some very World War I inspired trenches. If he's seen crap like this, there's no way he's still the same guy we saw before, although it turns out he hasn't changed at all. And then he meets Chewie, who may or may not be a man-eater.
No, there's only a droid in the pit, so it's still PG-13, I guess.
Han convinces Chewie not to eat him by speaking Wookiee. And how does he know how to speak Wookiee? Of all the things to explain, why not this?
This pops up again later when Han flies a ship for a bit while his and Chewie's new crew are being murdered. Apparently, Han is one heck of a pilot, but how? As far as we know, if you're watching the final cut of the film, he has never flown a ship in his life, or if he did, they don't bother to reference it.
There is a deleted scene of Han previously being a pilot, but then getting demoted that they should have kept in if they wanted to avoid him being a Gary Stu who can just fly things for no reason. And yes, in fact, he is a Gary Stu.
Speaking of that crew that was mentioned, we only knew them for a few minutes, and they die with little to no impact on the story.
Beckett, the leader of the group, is around for a lot more of the movie, and he's sort of a mentor character for Han, which is interesting, but they don't dive into that aspect very much. At least, unlike Rey, Han did learn something from his mentor. So there is that. I'll give you points for that. Congratulations, Lord Kasdan, you did it again.
Woody Harrelson does have a bit of a questionable performance. A few of the lines are a bit scuffed, but moving on. Something else very strange about this movie is its minor villain turned ally, Infus Nest.
Oh yeah, Dryden Voss. I guess he's the main villain of the story. Well, he's so uninteresting and boring, he's not worth mentioning.
I believe this is Disney's favorite girl's first Disney/Lucasfilm role. She doesn't do a very good acting job, but that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the morality of the film is really messed up.
At first, Infest Nest and her group are introduced as marauders, which they are, but later they talk to Solo and company and tell them the Crimson Dawn are bad gangsters who did mean things, which we already knew, and they need that fuel to seed a rebellion to attack more people to fight the Empire and Crimson Dawn.
That's all well and good, but these are basically pirates that are trying to stand on the moral high ground. The same pirates who killed 2 of the side characters earlier and threatened to kill the remaining members of the team. Who knows how many people have been killed because of these murderers?
And for some reason, Han sides with them and is like, I'll help you guys. That doesn't make any sense. From what we see in A New Hope, he doesn't have any interest in helping Rebellion. And also that doesn't match with his character motivations. He just wants to run off with his girlfriend. Why does he care?
Even later when Infest Nest is like, oh, thanks for helping out. You should be like a leader in the rebellion or whatever. And he's like, nah, kid, that's not for me. Fish, please, you already helped the rebellion. That's the only reason that this finale happened.
Why did Han even get pulled into any of this mess? After the first plan goes south, Han chooses to stick with Beckett and help him with his next job, but there's no reason given for why. Logically, this is pretty dangerous, and he doesn't need any bad blood between himself and Crimson Dawn. There are better ways to make money.
This includes gambling, which he shows he's really good at. Once again, how did he get good at Sabacc? The movie never says.
And during the Sabacc game, Han meets Lando in a rather contrived plot sequence that requires him and Kira to get a ship, and Lando is honestly one of the best parts of the movie. The character isn't particularly good, but the childish Gambino does a good job with what he was given.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge plays L337, and the character is pretty annoying. She also did a good enough job acting-wise, I guess. Though she dies during the fuel heist randomly. It's supposed to make us sad, I think, but I don't care at all.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
She barely has a part in the story, and she's not particularly likable.
That said, she really doesn't die, though, because, you know, droids can't die. That's the way humans can. And they could have just fixed her. Instead, they basically actually kill her by dismembering her and placing her in the Millennium Falcon. Why did the writers do this? So they can have the origin of the Falcon's Navicomputer, yeah baby, because we need to explain everything.
The Navicomputer is the reason they're able to complete a galactic record Kessel run, and they throw in some TIE fighters to make it a little bit more action-packed. Thinking about that, why is there just a Star Destroyer there? Were they on the way to do something?
I don't know.
Just randomly Star Destroyer. But the TIE fighters are there because the ticking time bomb of the fuel wasn't enough. Also, a space octopus.
The octopus was hanging out near the black hole. Physically impossible, I know, when the Falcon flies past getting its attention. According to Wikipedia, the space creature was just moving along, minding its own business, until it saw a black hole and became enamored with the pulsing light. Wait, black holes have light? It sat there for centuries watching the black hole until the Millennium Falcon came along. It tries to chase the ship, but Han pulls a maneuver that brings it too close to the black hole and it gets sucked in and dies. Very tragic. That was a very unnecessarily tragic explanation for why that thing was there.
He was just looking for some food. He saw the light, got enamored, some ship came by, he's like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go eat, and then he got sucked in and died.
Well, this sequence is what it is. It's not the worst part of the movie, I guess. Wait, is it?
After they make it past the black hole with the fuel, meet up with Infest Nest, the third act begins. It's not much better than the rest of the movie, honestly. There's the obvious twist that Beckett betrays the crew, and the other obvious twist of Kira betraying Han.
What's not so obvious is that Darth Maul showed up for a few seconds to turn on his lightsaber, and then turn it off again. I don't know if the timeline maths, but we'll just assume it does.
Han learning to shoot first is one of the best moments in the movie. That being said, the build-up to this moment was rather sloppy, and the payoff doesn't really feel that deserved. Still, in a movie like this, it is the only standout scene.
So, how has Solo: A Star Wars Story aged? I would argue, badly. But perhaps not in the way you first might think. Most of the time, we use milk to describe things that age badly, becoming spoiled and nasty, like Ellen DeGeneres' career. But with Solo, it's more of a bad leftover situation. Not really truly awful tasting, altogether, but it didn't turn out quite the way you wanted.
That's just slop. Horrible, nasty, gloop.
And it just sat in the fridge for ages until you could no longer remember when you made it and whether it's even safe to consume. That's Solo.
Well said. How does it compare to the other Disney Star Wars movies? It's not as blatantly offensive as The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, but isn't much better either. Being a self-contained story, it doesn't completely destroy Star Wars canon, but doesn't do it any favors. They still keep pushing the hyperspace fuel thing, which is redacted, and overall this just feels like an unnecessary project. It's the equivalent of a filler episode.
However, there seems to be quite a few people who think this movie's underrated, based on some YouTube comments I saw while looking at the trailer. In our opinion, though, it is just on par with everything else Disney has been doing and doesn't deserve any special hate or praise.
It is what it is.
But that's just our thoughts on Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Do you like the movie? Let us know in the comments down below. Do you hate this movie? Let us know in the comments down below. No thoughts on the movie? Let us know in the comments down below.
And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving us a like and subscribing. It really helps us out. And if you want to watch another Star Wars video, or almost like a prequel to this video, you can take a look at this video over here. It's about Solo and what happened behind the scenes to screw everything up.
Or take a look at this video. I think it's pretty good. Until we see you there, he's Mia.
And he's Keto.
And we hope that you have a blessed day. Bye!